The legend Larry Fink dropped an absolute bombshell here today to the investors, saying that Bitcoin could potentially overtake the dollar because of a rising issue that, as Bitcoiners, we all know has been a problem for quite some time. But look at this Forbes article saying Bitcoin is a safer bet as he issues a huge $952 billion Bitcoin price warning to the US dollar. So Bitcoin has been dropping here lately, right? We're seeing Bitcoin floating around $82,000 as we speak here. But what we are seeing is Uncle Larry, the legend Larry Fink, now saying, hey, we've got a huge U.S. debt problem here. The U.S. has benefited from the dollar serving as the world's reserve currency for decades, but that's not guaranteed to last forever. And Larry Fink wrote that in the BlackRock annual letter, pointing to a ballooning national debt. And even saying in this letter that, hey, Bitcoin could eat away at the U.S. dollar reserve status. Mic drop. That is absolutely massive, as it is interesting that BlackRock and Larry Fink have been benefiting from the rise of Bitcoin. But with all of this, they are not even understanding the full power of Bitcoin, which is being able to hold it themselves, right? Larry Fink and BlackRock, they are all posing Bitcoin as digital gold. They're saying, hey, you can hold it mostly through this ETF, which is custodied by Coinbase. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but the interesting aspect is Larry Fink is now saying the quiet parts out loud. He's legitimately saying that Bitcoin could replace the US dollar as the global currency amidst the rising US debt. In fact, he even cited this in his shareholder letters, where they looked at the amount of debt as a comparison to the US GDP. Now, why would you put this chart in here, right? Why would you potentially look at the overall federal debt as a percentage of a GDP? And look, all all fiat currencies have failed eventually, but usually the turning point is when people lose faith in that currency, and another sign is when the overall debt flips the amount of production. In other words, the percentage of the US debt flips the GDP. So Larry Fink and BlackRock are literally putting this out there saying, hey, this is a huge, huge problem. And look at how much this percentage has gone up since the financial crisis in 2008. It is absolutely massive, the percentages of this. But we've even gotten United States Senators, Cynthia Lummis, who has been a huge proponent for Bitcoin. In fact, even trying to introduce the Bitcoin Act, which would have the United States buy 1 million coins, 200,000 for 5 years, and then hold on to it for 20. She's even coming out and saying, hey, reasons to pass the Bitcoin Act and buy, baby, buy. The Bitcoin Act will help get our debt under control, and only one nation have the juice to own enough Bitcoin to underpin its currency as the world's reserve currency. The clock and the next block are ticking. Let's go. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a huge proponent to, one, now start to buy Bitcoin as soon as physically possible and buy as much as possible. We've had a lot of these government agents come out and not necessarily cite this right here, the government debt, but they've come out and said that they want to buy as much Bitcoin as possible. And they've wanted to do it for quite some time. And now we've got Larry Fink, the world's largest asset manager, saying the quiet parts out loud, that Bitcoin could threaten the dollar's reserve currency status. Now, Uncle Larry, looking fierce, he's saying that the U.S. debt could lose its economic edge to Bitcoin if it falls under control. While backing decentralized finance and tokenization, Fink has stressed that the need for a better digital identity infrastructure to unlock its full institutional adoptions. And the BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust now holds nearly 50 billion. That's billion, like Billy the Goat, kids, in assets. And its tokenized fund of Build is on track to become the largest on the market. So we all know BlackRock's got its iShares Bitcoin Trust. They've got a lot of other products that they're shilling here now. And in fact, they're expanding these products to Europe and all over the globe. I did a video yesterday on how Van Eck is now moving towards China. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see BlackRock follow shortly behind. But that's all speculation. What isn't speculation is these net inflows. We've seen a net inflow of $36 billion over a total amount of time. Their total assets is about 94.4 billion, which is almost 6 or 5.5% of Bitcoin's market cap, with, of course, the IBIT being the leader in all of this. So these ETFs are scooping up Bitcoin at a rapid pace. And in fact, they're scooping up more Bitcoin than Michael Saylor is at this point in time. But what we're seeing is something interesting. We're seeing this ETF inflows decline dramatically within this last week, right? Dropping dramatically, 73% down in one single week. Now we're seeing Bitcoin's price also somewhat follow suit in 1 week, down about 3%, but we're still kind of floating at that $83,000 mark, even though we have the writing on the wall here. Larry Fink, Uncle Larry, saying the quiet parts out loud. So it's interesting. Why is he doing this when, in fact, Larry Fink benefits from you not holding your own keys, from the US dollar potentially being the global reserve currency? Larry Fink has, in fact, benefited greatly. BlackRock has benefited greatly. They've seen the writing on the wall this entire time by putting as much of their fiat currency into hard assets. Whether it's real estate, we've seen BlackRock go through phases where they've bought up massive amounts of commercial real estate around the globe. Whether it's the stock market, BlackRock owns an exorbitant percent of the overall stock market. And then now they're moving towards Bitcoin, where the ETFs own nearly 6% of the entire market cap of Bitcoin. So what do we have to do in these kinds of situation, plebs? We got to hold Bitcoin as much as possible, because with these headlines, as Bitcoin being a, quote, safer bet, with a $952 billion Bitcoin price warning on Forbes. This is not a green candle typo. This is not a green candle headline or anything along those lines. This is Forbes saying this, that it's a $952 billion warning. Fink warned Trump's trade policies will see a return of inflation, dampening expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates through 2025, involving the specter of stagflation characterized by economic slowdown coupled with spiraling price rises. Fink, who has become one of the most bullish voices in support of Bitcoin on Wall Street, led BlackRock in its campaign to get a spot Bitcoin ETF approved through US January 2023, with a fleet of Bitcoin funds making their debut in January 24, making it the fastest growing ETF of all time. So Larry Fink sees the desire for all of these ETF products, the desire for Wall Street to get in more Bitcoin and get in more of these products. And he's seen the rise of the ETF becoming the fastest growing ETF in history. Now, what he's also seeing is the US debt rise dramatically and continue to rise as we print more and more dollars. And so this chart is worrying Larry Fink, worrying Uncle Larry, and it's worrying us all in the Bitcoin space. So it definitely seems like we are seeing the writing on the wall. These guys are saying the quiet parts out loud. We've got some great guys in the chat here. Who's selling off the Bitcoin while these whales are buying? In fact, we see a lot of these ETF products starting to get scooped up. All-nighter hiders saying Luke's whales. Hey, I hope Luke's whales are buying Bitcoin because, my Lord, they need to be to deal with that guy. Does BlackRock own all of these assets, or are they just buying assets? So, you could look at it one of two ways, right? Like my man All-Nighter Hider is saying, read the fine print. You do not own any stocks in the business, only beneficial interest. That's why I keep typing it, beneficial interest. It's similar to where BlackRock is managing money for people. Now, what happened with FTX and all these other things, right? They're a little less regulated than, say, BlackRock and this BlackRock ETF and what BlackRock does. But when FTX went under, you're not getting your money back, folks. Right? Like, you're not actually getting it. So, I mean, the faith that you have in BlackRock is that it wouldn't fail. And honestly, the United States government will probably not let BlackRock, or saying BlackRock is too big, where it is too big to fail, essentially. But you can own Bitcoin. You don't need to hold anything else here related to that, right? You got to smoke the like with like Cheech and Chong. Oh man, the Bing Bong. It's making it over to the live streams. So, as you're saying, they're not buying assets, they're managing assets. Yes, that is correct. They are managing assets, right? But who's really managing them? If they are managing them, who really owns them, right? That's the question you have to ask with all of this, right? If you're holding Bitcoin and you're seeing these numbers on the screen, if you're buying it through their ETF products, you don't actually have that Bitcoin. The one unique aspect of what BlackRock is trying to do, so I will give them credit here, is that they're looking to do in-kind ETFs. Now, for those who don't know, what is an in-kind ETF? It means you could actually deposit Bitcoin. Now, I don't know why you would do that, but you could deposit Bitcoin into these BlackRock ETFs and then pull the Bitcoin out as well. So these in-kind ETFs are an interesting aspect, and I think that they are going to be the new wave of things, especially with what we have seeing here, these ETF products. But as you guys know and love, I want you guys to stack as much sats in self-custody as absolutely physically possible. So I'm going to give you guys some sats here today. As we've got this chat popping off here, get your Lightning wallets ready because we will be giving you some free sats. Every time you guys come to a Green Candle live stream, I will be giving you guys free sats courtesy of my friends over at the Bitcoin Well. You could go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle and sign up today. And every time you buy Bitcoin, they will give you points like I've got here to play this wishing well, where you can win up to 1 million sats. So let's see what we've got here. 210 smackers here. So get your Lightning wallets ready. Scoop up these sats because, ladies and gentlemen, this could be generational wealth, or this could be buying you coffee here in the next couple of years. This can keep you guys still going. So now you guys need to scoop up as much of these sats as absolutely humanely possible and continue to join the wishing well and the Bitcoin well as they've got over there, bitcoinwell.com/green candle. Because what we're seeing is Larry Fink, Uncle Larry the cable guy, come out and say that Bitcoin is eating away at the US dollar reserve status. This is something to not frown at. This is something to take extremely serious because they're essentially saying the quiet parts out loud. They're telling us, they're screaming from the top of their lungs, hey, guys, Bitcoin is dominating the US dollar. Fiat currencies come to fail. Cynthia Lummis, who's been a major proponent for Bitcoin going forward, dating back, and has even received a big endorsement from President Trump, has said we need to pass this Bitcoin Act. Michael Saylor's out there buying more Bitcoin on a daily basis. And Michael Saylor proposed a plan for the U.S. to buy 5 times the amount that Cynthia Lummis is planning on, or the Bitcoin Act is planning on buying. 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years and holding it for 20 years. I wonder what Bitcoin's price would look at with a 20-year chart. All time, Bitcoin in 16 years up 764,000%. Imagine what that would do if we actually held it for 20 years. Right? Say what you want. Maybe you think there's going to be some law of diminishing returns or something along those lines. But what we are seeing is that this chart here, 764,000%, 5 years, 1,200%. We're going to see these percentages play out over time. So if you think that these diminishing returns is something that's going to be sticking around, I've got some news for you, folks. I don't necessarily believe that, because what we're seeing is the potential of taking over the US dollar. And that's not just me saying that, right? I mean, that's just not just crazy Bitcoiners saying that. This is Larry Fink coming out and saying, look at what we're looking at. We're seeing this debt. Larry Fink is coming out and citing the U.S. federal debt held by the public as a percentage of GDP. They're looking at this. Zoom out. People are not bullish enough. We're in this Bitcoin doldrums, but this lull is temporary, and there will be a lot of crocodile tears this year, and a lot of you are lucky to get in early. It's exactly it. Don't fade Fink and his annual shareholder, CEO of BlackRock. The dollar is at risk of losing its reserve status to Bitcoin. It's incredible that in this 27-page report, Larry Fink, Uncle Larry, is coming out and saying the quiet parts out loud that we've all known and loved. V4BTC is saying Bitcoin has already displaced the dollar. It's just the masses that haven't clued in yet. And I think that's the potential, right? I mean, there are some people, I know some people that live strictly on Bitcoin. I know people that are every single day just utilizing Bitcoin to transact, buy things, that prefer the dollar and everything else. Ben says he just got here. He wants the 1 minute recap. Ben, you got to go to the beginning to watch, man. You got to watch all of it. You got to tune in for the entire time, because Bitcoin is now being looked at as potentially a replacement of the global reserve currency by Larry Fink, saying these quiet parts out loud. We've got people doing these corny Bitcoin train AI images here. But beside the point, Larry Fink is issued that unchecked UF deficits could pave the way to Bitcoin becoming a global reserve currency. If it doesn't get its debt under control, if deficits keep ballooning, America risks losing that position to digital assets like Bitcoin. I mean, I think it's, as we're going on here, oh man, no thanks. Everybody's wanting me to subscribe. But it's tied to the structural financial risk. It outlines a split view. While DeFi is praised as an extraordinary innovation, the firm cautions that its growth could undermine American financial primacy, which is true. We've all known that. We've all known that Bitcoin holds the potential to dethrone the US dollar with all of this. What's going on from Thailand? That is absolutely awesome. I actually got a comment the other day on one of my videos that I should move out to Thailand and try it out. So maybe I'll come out there and see a yay sayer at one point. But Down Under Blue saying, I'm living on hopes and dreams of a 1 million Bitcoin. Hey, I don't think that's hopes and dreams. I think we're going to get there at some point in time, because of look at what we're saying here. Look at what Larry Fink is saying. He's the most powerful asset manager on the planet. They hold the most amount of assets. This is not green candle. This is not Brandon Keys just screaming hot air into a microphone and saying this. This is Larry Fink. This isn't your favorite YouTuber saying all these things, right? This is a very influential guy. This framing positions Bitcoin as more than a speculative asset or a store of value, and as a macro hedge against sovereign instability. The implications parallel similar arguments made in recent years by institutional investors treating digital assets as insurance against monetary debasement or geopolitical volatility. Two things can be true at the same time, referring to the coexistence of innovation and the risk of digital asset development. Right? I mean, these things, they're coming out and saying it to us. They're coming out and telling us right now that, hey, Larry Fink and BlackRock are potentially lining out the demise of the US dollar right before our eyes because we are all seeing it. We're all seeing what could potentially go on here, right? Smoke the like Cheech and Chong if you guys haven't already. My man All Nighter Hider always says that in the chat. So please, as I'm bringing this to you guys, as Ben is saying, at this point, it's too risky to not own Bitcoin. I agree with you 1,000%. It is too risky to not own Bitcoin. Down Under thinks that he thinks Larry has other motives. That could be true. Very much so could be true. But what we're seeing too is that the ETF is they're still seeing a decline in the amount of people or the amount of buying pressure that they're having from there, right? Omar Val, the bear in the chat. Spam the bear. Tell him give him the green candles in the chat, guys. Because I mean, how could you be bearish at this point in time with everything that we're seeing? Right? We're seeing Bitcoin exactly what McLovin is saying here. 21 million is a very small amount for anything in the entire population to share. Yeah. As Stan is saying, I'm sure you are selling, right? Exactly. At least 150K Bitcoin in Q4. That's what I'm thinking. I am more bullish than that. I'll tell you guys that much because of what we're seeing here. I've gone on multiple podcasts and given out my price prediction, so I'm not going to reiterate that here. You guys will have to check on something. Maybe I'll get on another podcast outside of my own here and say more. But Down Under saying Larry's IBIT doesn't make money if Bitcoin's price is going lower. Potentially. But are they utilizing this to scoop up more corn and manipulating the market to potentially buy at a lower price? I don't necessarily think so. We're seeing the net inflow down today, but the cumulative total obviously is up a bunch. We saw last week massive amounts of outflows right before these earning calls, which is interesting, and these shareholder letters being introduced to all of the people. And then we've seen Bitcoin's price react in a similar way, down 3% over the past week. But we're still sitting at this 83K mark. It's still a great place to buy. Stan is saying, I bought yesterday, I bought today, and I'm buying tomorrow. Hey, I love that. Buying the top forever. Forever, Laura. It's going up forever, right? Well, if you guys haven't smoked that like, please do hit the subscribe button. I've got a great interview that I did with Michael Dunworth that you guys should definitely check out. I'll put this in the chat. Go watch this. Also have a video of myself uncovering a little bit about my life here, how I was shit canned from doing green candle from JP Morgan. So if you guys want to go check those videos out, please do. I'm working hard to bring you guys some more content on a daily basis. So smoke the like, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to join the green candle movement. And I will see you guys all at the next one. I appreciate the lively chat. I think we have 112 all on YouTube here today. So thank you guys all for joining, and I'll see you guys all at the next one.